Hey, this is Yarrow. Welcome to another episode of the Yarrow podcast. So, I seem to be talking about AI a lot, as is everybody, but since I'm using the tool so much, it kind of tends to come up in my everyday experiences right now. And one of the interesting parts of this is I don't know, maybe it's me just being the leader of my company or just I've always been interested in technology. I'm using certain tools because they're faster and better and give me more control to do things that I do already in my roles, in marketing. So, for example, right now I've been using Replit, which is one of the vibe coding, web design, or app design tools. I use it mostly for website creation, not like apps for mobile phones or anything, but it's so much easier than whatever my previous options were, which were either using some sort of, I don't know, theme like on WordPress or some sort of drag and drop designing tool, which is still very restrictive. You've got a template and you can control it, but it's quite clunky. Or, of course, which frankly has been the most common way, is me asking my tech person to make a change and then they go away. Maybe the next day come back with the changes implemented depending on how complex the design work was. So a classic example of this is like right now, we're putting together some new landing pages. They're just simple one-page opt-ins for lead magnets, so free resources we're giving away as part of our content marketing strategy for my company Inbox Done. And the past process would have been one of those three things I just mentioned. Now I go to Replit and I say, hey, I need a landing page and it's going to cover, this topic. Here's two graphics that I've got. Like one is a picture of the lead magnet and one is a picture of my co-founder. And here's the actual lead magnet. In this case, it's a written document. So I say, here's the text. Go create a landing page for this. Now, typically, I would have to write every piece of copy for this landing page and come up with every single content block. But because I say this is a landing page, Replit already knows what that is and has no doubt the entire internet's worth of examples to draw upon. So it goes to work for me and basically within about 5 minutes spits out a completely designed, copy-written landing page. Now it's not complete, it's not ready to go. I still had to change spacing, margin, modify bits of the copy, but it's a job where I'm just editing something that's 90% there rather than building something from scratch. And this has sped up my workflow for these kind of tasks significantly. I still, there's still work to do, but what I love about it is you can make changes with text prompts. So move this box here, add more spacing there, put a border around this. These are things I would have written to my human-based tech person or designer, and they'd go away and have to manually change it. Or I'd be looking for, functions, dragging and dropping and trying to make it work, or, it just wouldn't give me the control in some kind of visual-based editing tool. So with a text-based tool, now there's obviously some weaknesses. For actually editing text, this is the irony, it's probably a little slower because you have to like say, change this sentence to this sentence as opposed to just clicking the box and doing a manual edit. But pretty much everything that's a design-based change, add this new block here, change this here, put a margin on that, add a border around this, put a shadow effect on this, add some cornering on that. And even the more technically complex things like I have to have opt-in forms on the landing page, obviously, which has to connect to my email newsletter tool, kit.com. And what I do in that case, back in the previous method, I'd have to go to Kit, generate the form, either directly copy and paste the HTML code from the form into the website, see how it looks, make changes, maybe design the form within the Kit interface. But now I do is render a form. I don't worry about the design at all. I just grab the JavaScript, which is like some insertion code. I just say to Replit, hey, here's the form, make it active. And it does it. And it does even more than I expect. Like it changes the way the post opt-in functions work. It shows me what it thinks I want. So in this case, it said like, here, after a person opts in, it said, here's a link directly to the lead magnet. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. But I thought, you know what? I wanted to make sure they double opt in. So I told Replit, don't give them a direct link, give them a prompt to go check their inbox and also look out to see if it went in the spam or promotions tab. Instantly changes it. I don't even have to write the text. I just give it the idea and it writes the text. So I'm finding this not like very more efficient for my workflows, but also just better for the speed of output of the things that normally would have taken me brain power to figure out. When I say that, I mean simple things like writing a sentence or coming up with a way to present this information. I don't have to think about that anymore. I just say, hey, we need a confirmation. Boom, here's a whole confirmation process. Now, it's not always right, but it more often than not is almost right or ready to go, or it interprets what I say in a different way that I would never have thought about. And sometimes that's better. In fact, more often than not, I'm finding it is better than what I was contemplating before. And that's probably because the AI has so many different examples to draw upon. It can show me something that I never thought about. So I'm really appreciating that. Now, here's what's interesting, and this maybe is for any founders listening to this who have a team right now who are used to doing things in a certain way. So I have a team right now, and we have a task that we're basically setting up a knowledge base. Actually, we have two. We have a help center that's being generated for our marketing department, which is basically an AI search marketing tool where we're trying to put together just more content to rank in AI-based search queries. But we're also just coincidentally creating a new knowledge base internally for our team, like our main operations team. And they just need kind of like your typical searchable FAQ, full of SOPs for how we run our business. But in terms of functionality, these are two very simple tools. Now, my tech people and my team went to solve this problem in the way we normally would. It's okay, we have a WordPress-based website. What can we do with that? All right, we've got this, and this. It usually comes down to a plugin, which it did. So there was a plugin that provided essentially like a knowledge-based or FAQ-based website. There would be an annual fee to purchase this plugin, and it would be very much a solution that works, but is very specific. Like you get a structured system. You can't really dynamically change it. You can work within the boundaries of the way it's given to you. So the design, the functionality, and it would solve the problem. Don't get me wrong. It's definitely a solution to this. And in fact, my team gravitates to doing that because they're used to WordPress. They're comfortable with WordPress, and they don't want to change things. Now, because I've been using Replit so much, I went to my team and said, hey, let's look at Replit creating a version of this first and see whether maybe this is a better way going forward. Now, I'm being a little sneaky here because I'm not doing this just because I want the team to create a knowledge base using Replit, because frankly, I'm not 100% sure that's certainly not the cheapest option. It may end up costing more, at least initially, to use Replit because there's a token cost to generate something. But once it's built, you don't have to keep paying for it like a monthly fee for a WordPress plugin. That being said, we'll probably keep adding new content for it. So will that end up costing the same amount as the monthly or yearly fee for the WordPress plugin? Maybe. I don't know how much my team is going to add to it over time. Maybe not that much. So it probably end up being cheaper overall. But my sneaky plan here is not just, hey, let's see if Replit can do this for us, is just getting in particular, two of my team members, one of my tech people and one of my hiring managers, to start using a vibe coding tool for this kind of problem. Because I wanted to see the potential. For example, here's a classic example. I was like, it's a new way of thinking when it comes to vibe coding and text prompting for design. So we have the knowledge base basically built now using Replit, from my tech person. And she's getting very comfortable with it quite quickly because she is a person used to designing. So she has coding skills, so she can definitely do a little bit more, see where problems arise, but is definitely getting pretty comfortable with Replit. But my hiring manager, not necessarily like a coder by any means, is just usually uses WordPress-based interfaces as she should. But I wanted her to experience what it looks like to add a piece of content to a Replit-generated knowledge base and just have that experience. But then interesting things start to happen. For example, this morning there was talk about, I want to add a piece of content to multiple places. And in the previous way with WordPress, we would just tick a box in the submit form and say, put this here, here, and there. And we didn't have that functionality. We just had like a manual process where we'd say to Replit, add this content into these categories. Now then the obvious prompting there is add this content to this category and this category and this category. Like you use a text-based prompt to say, hey, put it here, and put it here, which is totally fine and a workflow you could do for adding content. But it doesn't mean you have to kind of repeat that, and it goes against the previous sort of workflows that they're used to, which is having an input form with tick boxes. But then I said to my team, hey, you can just ask Replit, create an input form to add content to this knowledge base that gives tick boxes to decide where it goes and basically recreate the functionality that they're used to. So Replit, of course, can do that. Now, that opens up your mind to, oh, I see. So any problem I have or anything I wanted to do, it's a case of just asking Replit to build it, and it can be there. So what I like about this is it's showing the diversity and flexibility of a tool like Replit, because you can create functionality exactly how you want it to be, and maybe add functionality from different sources that you like into this one tool that you're building. So I don't think like this knowledge base is going to be groundbreaking. There's pros and cons with doing it with Replit. I'm sure there's the learning curve. I'm paying my team members to learn how to use these tools, so it's definitely costing our company a bit more than just installing a WordPress tool. However, for me, it's like opening the door to these AI tools, and I'm definitely finding with my company, and probably a lot of founders who are dealing with a team are having this challenge too. It's not like the default to go experiment with something new, to get something done, or find an AI solution to something, or even just experiment with an AI solution just to see what it would do, for the potential. And that makes sense, because when you've got existing operations systems, comfort zones, it just makes sense to keep doing things in the same way. But I want to make sure my team is using AI, and most importantly, is thinking about it and aware of it as they go about their tasks. In case of my business in particular, in the case of my business in particular, I was concerned, and people have asked me, will AI even entirely replace what we do, in particular on the email side? In this case, this business I'm talking about, we provide email management executive assistants. And there have been a number of AI-based email writing tools that have popped up and have taken off, and they're, low cost, $50 a month, and just put this into your Gmail and it will start writing your emails. Not really a new idea. There's been tools like that for a number of years that have had a writing capability. Superhuman comes to mind as the earliest one that was sort of mainstream. But thanks to certainly the rise of ChatGPT and better, text-based responses, it's become very much a standard thing to have a tool that can just basically, figure out what will be the best response to your email and write it for you. And then you just decide whether to send it or not, which is a big part of what we do as humans. We just figure out what's the best thing to write and handle that. Now, I was initially concerned, and at one point I was like, maybe we should also have an AI tool like this. If nothing else, it could be a great lead magnet to our services. It could be a standalone income stream. But we ended up not doing that. And this was like 2 years ago, before lots of these tools popped up, because I didn't want, or we decided as a co-founder and we decided that we don't want to be a tech team. We're not basically a software team. Now, the funny thing is, like, we probably could vibe code something now much easier, than 2 years ago, and potentially have an app or build something. But I just don't really want to be in the, email, app building space. If I'm going to be playing with AI, I want to solve more interesting problems. So the main question then became, hey, is our business screwed? Because will people no longer want to work with human-based executive assistants when AI agents can do everything we do? And so far, the answer is, mixed. It's definitely not a case of, completely wiping out the entire executive and virtual assistant industries. That we're all still in business. People are still working with humans. I still have assistants. We have many clients who are upgrading to get more time from our humans. But there's definitely been, an impact is on the other side too, where people are making the choice where perhaps they would have hired a human to use a few agents or one agent to do certain tasks. But normally that's a case when the person doesn't want to completely delegate as a solution. They don't mind like task delegating. Hey, write some template replies for me. That's it. Where in our case, sure, we're doing the template replies, but we're actually learning the entire process that runs your business, all the workflows. So we don't just do the reply. We can do the end-to-end process. So we can do the reply, we can do the follow-ups over time, we can do the onboarding, we can do the CRM management, we can enter data in one place or another. Could all this be potentially managed with tools? Yes, you'd have to build quite a convoluted process, probably something with like an N8N or Zapier's, and even then you've got dynamic parts of it that just constantly change. And there's a lot of context learning too. You have to kind of get to know what's happened in the past, what we're trying to achieve. So long story short, there's just a human component needed. And I think, as always, the case is going to be, well, humans in the loop. but AI tools making things faster and cheaper, which is why I want my team to be doing this too, because I think we need to be better at using AI for ourselves so we can be better at using AI for our clients. And we want to be the decision to still work with assistants. I want that to be us, but our assistants are managing the AI tools. That's the ideal. We're still part of the conversation. We're still a critical piece of the operations of a company. We're just not doing every single low level task anymore. We've got a bunch of AI tools that we're managing for our clients, but we still provide all of the contextual intelligence that's necessary to actually complete tasks. We get it from 90% to 100%. And that's a really, really important role, because a part of that is simply quality control. That's why you can't just press play on an agent and say, go run this entire department. You have to have some level of quality control. And that's where, a human-based executive assistant can come in. Anyway, that's a lot of food for thought around this idea about AI, but hopefully get some insights in some of the things going on inside my own company, and also how I'm, just personally getting some benefit from AI tools right now. I'll leave it there. Thanks for listening to today's episode of the Yarrow podcast. And yeah, we'll speak to you very soon.